Suge Knight's son just fired a massive shot at Snoop Dogg regarding Tupac's death, sparking up one of hip-hop's most explosive debates. Just when you thought the drama hit its absolute peak, a major player from that golden era flipped the narrative. Hit subscribe, because you and I are breaking this down. The Sun speaks out. In June 2026, a YouTube clip surfaced featuring Suge Knight Jr., better known as Lil Suge. He aimed directly at Snoop Dogg and the whole Death Row Records situation. Now, Lil Suge isn't someone who just popped up overnight. He has built a steady presence for years, figuring out how to carry one of the most controversial last names in American music history. But this specific video struck a major nerve because it dropped right when the bad blood between the Knight family and Snoop Dogg hit a boiling point we haven't seen in decades. Suge Sr. had been calling in from prison, claiming Snoop played a role in Tupac's murder. Snoop had been shooting back online and through his tracks. The rap world split right down the middle, some backing Suge, while others brushed him off as a bitter guy venting from a cell. In the clip, Lil Suge delivered his stance with a blunt honesty that shocked fans who honestly expected him to play it safe. It is definitely being turned into a commercial, whatever you just said. Something perfect, what you just said. Commercialized version. But that is just what it is though. He noted that Snoop had controlled Death Row for about 5 years by then. And in his honest opinion, the rap legend had failed to do anything real with the brand. He labeled the new Death Row a watered-down, corporate ghost of the monster label his dad built. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't throwing threats. He was laying out pure business facts. In Lil Suge's view, Snoop grabbed decades of hardcore rap history and twisted that legendary status into something that totally failed to respect its brutal roots. So, nobody is mad. I hit you with the facts, and the fans are the ones mad about the truth. That idea of angry fans rejecting reality became a major talking point in Lil Suge's recent interviews. He was totally used to the internet losing its mind whenever a Knight spoke up about Death Row or Snoop Dogg. Yet he made sure to package his takes as cold, hard facts, rather than petty, emotional jabs fueled by family beef. Subscribe for more updates. Snoop saying he owns Death Row is exactly like me saying Tupac is still alive just because I hold unreleased Tupac tracks. That comparison was wild to hear, showing exactly how Lil Suge separates fake industry hype from actual, undeniable reality. In past sit-downs, Lil Suge always proved he was incredibly sharp and calculated whenever he chose to unpack his family's dark past. During his homegrown radio interview, hosts asked him straight up about his ties to former Death Row artists, his dad's notorious rap sheet, and those endless conspiracy rumors trailing the Knight name for 30 long years. Every single time, he played his cards smart, shifting focus right back to his future instead of drowning in 90s drama. He painted his dad strictly as a heavy-hitting businessman first, a boss who always kept work away from the house, pushing his kids to carve out their own lanes instead of copying his notorious run. That is business and family, and he does not even mix the two. And when the chat naturally shifted to whether Suge was truly the monster the press claimed, Lil Suge defended his bloodline without getting overly defensive. He dropped a heavy childhood story about the time he straight up asked his dad about the Tupac shooting. Why would I set myself up with that man? Plus, that was my brother. He explained that after hearing his dad's answer and actually touching the bullet fragments still inside Suge's head, he never brought that night up again. And honestly, that mindset made perfect sense. Because while the son was out here pushing pure business, his dad was fighting a completely different, much darker battle from behind maximum security bars, the father's war. Suge Knight has been locked up since 2018, serving 28 years after pleading no contest to voluntary manslaughter for a fatal 2015 hit-and-run outside a Compton burger joint that left one victim dead and another critically wounded. The rap mogul who once ran hip-hop's most feared music empire was now speaking to us only through recorded jail phone lines and tightly scheduled prison interviews, hosted by platforms hungry for his story. Drop a like if you are hooked. The main guy he targeted, the guy he kept hunting time after time, was Snoop Dogg. Through multiple drops, especially with big hip-hop channels like The Art of Dialogue, Suge built his case against Snoop with extensive, calculated, and wildly detailed claims. Our newsroom is breaking down the main accusations Suge Knight keeps repeating across multiple media sit-downs. First up, Suge claims Ray J told him during a prison call that Snoop Dogg had essentially confessed to a role in Tupac's murder. Suge alleges Ray J passed along intel showing Snoop was not just an innocent bystander that September night in Vegas, but was heavily tangled in the active web of events that got Tupac gunned down on Flamingo Road. That is a massive hip-hop news bombshell. If true, this accusation completely rewrites everything we know about September 7, 1996, and sends shockwaves through the entire rap industry. Second, Suge pointed out Warren G's comments regarding walkie-talkies used the night Tupac was murdered. This implies a highly coordinated tactical effort, fueled by radio chatter, suggesting Snoop's circle might have been on that network. This detail was pitched to the press as hardcore premeditation, a planned hit rather than some random gang shootout. Again, hit that subscribe button as we track these serious claims. Claims entirely lacking physical evidence in any courtroom or backing from independent detectives. Third on the desk, Suge emphasized that Snoop skipped traveling to Vegas that fatal weekend. Snoop stayed in Los Angeles while Tupac attended the Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. To Suge, this absence was no accident. He told reporters Snoop clearly knew something was coming and strategically stayed far away from the crime scene. In this broadcast, Suge presented that decision to stay home as absolute proof of guilt. But folks, the real explanation for Snoop's absence has been public record for years before Suge made it the foundation of his explosive new allegations. Drop a like if you remember this. Days before Vegas, Tupac and Snoop had a nasty fallout. Tupac was furious over Snoop making comments on a Los Angeles radio show that sounded way too friendly and supportive of East Coast figures he actively despised. This happened during the absolute climax of the East Coast versus West Coast war, when territorial divides were so severe that showing any love to the opposition was viewed as total crew treason. Our sources say Tupac viewed Snoop's interview as straight-up disloyal. He took it as a direct insult. The tension between them escalated quickly, and by the time the Vegas trip arrived, they were no longer speaking. Snoop told his crew he wasn't going, and warned them to stay away, too. For our viewers, that context is crucial, offering an entirely different motive for Snoop staying behind, one entirely disconnected from any upcoming murder conspiracy. It represents the gap between a rapper staying home due to a blazing feud with his death row label mate versus an accomplice staying home because he knew that label mate was getting assassinated. We are looking at two vastly different storylines, and Suge's recent media tour completely ignores that distinction. But the former boss did not stop with those three claims. He pushed his agenda harder on every new podcast appearance. He blamed Snoop directly for Tupac's tragic demise, using broadcast language that left zero room for doubt about his dark implications. He claimed that Snoop and a few others tried to bail out Dwayne Keith "Kef" D. Davis, the man finally indicted as the primary suspect in Tupac's high-profile homicide. Suge told interviewers they desperately wanted Kef D free because the suspect was talking way too much to the feds, hinting that powerful elites in hip-hop news were terrified of what Kef might leak about the wider Vegas conspiracy. Suge also shifted his anchor desk focus to that controversial Drake record using artificial intelligence vocals to clone both Snoop and Tupac on one track. Suge slammed it as highly disrespectful, considering his theories on Snoop's guilt. The very thought of Snoop's digital voice rapping next to Tupac's, even through artificial intelligence, was a stunt Suge found completely sickening. Our reporters note he views it as erasing the gritty truth about the actual relationship between the two artists leading up to Tupac's murder. This mountain of explosive claims built a self-feeding media frenzy. Every interview, Suge Grant sparks massive news headlines, and every single headline triggers endless debate among rap critics, fans, and insiders who ran with Death Row during its golden era. Now, industry insiders tell us Suge has a well-documented history of acting like every single person around him constantly owes him. They say his extreme loyalty demands are strictly a one-way street, and the folks who, guys cashing in on Death Row's massive success, then bailing, Snoop, Dre, everyone represented absolute personal betrayal. Suge Knight viewed this as straight-up treason. So from our news desk's perspective, his recent accusations against Snoop might be seen not as some hidden truth coming to light, but as the desperate last shots of a guy losing it all and refusing to accept defeat. Total blood in the water. To grasp why Suge's claims hit the rap culture so hard, You and I need to rewind the tape. Suge co-founded Death Row Records alongside Dr. Dre, launching the powerhouse through a major distribution deal with Interscope and its co-founder, Jimmy Iovine. Drop a like if you remember this label crashed the scene, stunning the music biz and terrifying rivals. Dr. Dre's The Chronic, dropping in 1992, wasn't just a massive hit, it was a cultural earthquake, forcing G-Funk into the mainstream spotlight, completely changing what West Coast rap sounded like, and moving millions of units back when hip-hop was fighting tooth and nail for mainstream respect outside of the East Coast scene. Then Snoop Dogg dropped Doggy Style in 1993, debuting right at #1 on the Billboard 200. Those first week numbers shattered records, crowning Death Row as the absolute most commercially dominant label in the rap game. When Tupac Shakur inked his deal in 1995, the company was already a monster, operating higher than any rap business ever had. But Pac's arrival took things to a whole new level that felt basically legendary. Make sure to subscribe, because Death Row was undeniably the most dominant, feared crew in rap history, and Suge Knight sat right at the throne of that empire, the CEO making all the heavy business calls. He was the ultimate boss, forcing those contracts through. But behind the platinum records, the packed stadium shows, and all those magazine covers, Death Row's foundation was cracking much faster than any of us watching could tell. Dr. Dre jumped ship first, walking away in 1996 to kick off Aftermath Entertainment. His motives were super complex, mostly tied to his serious issues with Suge's aggressive management approach, and the dark culture of street violence infecting literally every single corner of the label's daily grind. Snoop Dogg was up next for an exit that industry insiders knew was coming. He studied Suge's ruthless tactics up close for years. He saw the missing money, the extreme bullying of partners, the violent threats tossed at anybody brave enough to test Suge, and Snoop was getting seriously worried about his very own safety inside the Death Row ranks, knowing the gap between a star artist and a trapped asset was thinner than any fan realized. Then hit September 7, 1996, the tragic night altering the path of hip-hop forever. Tupac and Suge rolled up to the Tyson vs. Seldon match at the MGM Grand out in Los Catter, Vegas. While exiting the event, pushing through that absolutely packed hotel lobby, Tupac and member of his crew locked eyes on Orlando Anderson, a rival who sparked a previous clash with a Death Row affiliate at a Foot Locker down in Lakewood, California, just weeks before. A massive brawl broke out instantly. That crazy chaos got caught on MGM Grand security tapes, soon becoming one of the most debated pieces of surveillance video in rap history. Tupac, backed by his Death Row guys, was filmed rushing Anderson in a violent clash, lasting only seconds, sparking a dark chain of events that would end in pure tragedy hours later. That same night, Tupac and Suge cruised from the MGM in a black BMW 750. Suge was driving. They rolled in a massive convoy, heading straight to a party at Club 662, a popular spot that Suge personally owned just off the Vegas Strip. And guys, as their crew hit a red light on Flamingo Road right near Covell Lane, a white Cadillac rolled up right next to that BMW's passenger window. A shooter in that Cadillac, sitting in the back seat, just unloaded a .40 caliber Glock semi-automatic. Tupac took 4 hits, with bullets smashing into his chest, arm, and leg. Suge only caught a graze from a fragment or flying glass from the busted window. That white Cadillac floored it, vanishing straight into the Vegas darkness. Suge, bleeding out, actually drove that BMW to University Medical Center. For 6 brutally tense days on our news alerts, Tupac Shakur fought hard. But on September 13, 1996, at 4:03 p.m., Pac was pronounced dead. Suge completely survived it, and from that day on, the massive question of what he really knew, and if he actually set the whole thing up, became the absolute most heated, controversial rap debate we've ever covered in music history. Suge was right there when the bullets flew. He caught shrapnel. Hit that subscribe button, because over the decades, welcome to the channel. In the fallout, relentless conspiracy theories suggested that Suge Knight himself might have played a part in Tupac's murder, either through pure negligence by denying adequate security in a chaotic environment, flooded with gang tensions and lethal threats, or through something much darker and deliberate. Meanwhile, Snoop, in the years following the tragedy, publicly slammed Suge for creating the toxic climate that caused the murder. Snoop claimed in countless interviews and documentaries that Knight was totally responsible for the weak security on the night of the fatal drive-by. Following the tragedy, Death Row Records collapsed at a shocking speed that stunned even their harshest critics. Snoop bailed around 1998, and his exit was anything but clean. Snoop reportedly took $1 million to walk away, surrendering his valuable master recordings and future royalties from all the classic hits he created at the rap label. That bitter deal would haunt the dynamic between Snoop and the Knight family for the next 30 years. The immediate years following his exit sparked a bitter Cold War between them. Before we discuss how it exploded, drop a like and subscribe. Snoop dropped a vicious diss track called Pimp Slapped, targeting Suge Knight directly. The record was absolutely not subtle. It was not hidden. It was a bold declaration that the old power balance was completely dead. Snoop wasn't the rookie trapped under Knight's thumb. He was the boss now, with his own money, career, and a massive platform. And the public feud that exploded after that record dropped became one of the longest, most complicated, and genuinely most emotionally charged rap beefs in hip-hop history. Then came the Death Row deal. In 2022, a massive industry shakeup ripped every old wound wide open and poured salt inside. Snoop Dogg purchased Death Row Records. He promised to launch the iconic brand into the modern era, building a platform for fresh releases, digital media, and heavy investments into the new world of non-fungible tokens and blockchain technology. The internet's reaction was split right down the middle. Many fans praised the takeover as a fitting, highly poetic end to a messy chapter in hip-hop history, but others viewed the buyout through a much darker lens. Then there was Suge Knight, locked inside a prison cell, with absolutely zero possibility to block the deal. Watching his supposed betrayer seize full control of the empire he had poured blood, sweat, reputation, and freedom into building. Naturally, Suge fiercely contested the complete legitimacy of the sale the second it hit the mainstream news cycle. He claimed Death Row was stolen from him through a bunch of shady legal tricks and bankruptcy rulings. He couldn't fight from behind bars. He openly suggested the suits who brokered the takeover knew perfectly well that he was totally powerless to stop it, and he made it loudly clear that Snoop's ownership was entirely fraudulent. Meanwhile, Lil Suge initially handled the headlines with a calm, diplomatic tone that heavily contrasted with his father's pure rage. In a 2022 BET interview, he acknowledged the drama and shared his dad's side without going on a full attack. He mentioned wanting to build his own empire instead of fighting over the ashes of the old one. He then announced New Death Row, an independent record label and lifestyle brand he was building entirely from scratch, purposely separated from the original Death Row Records and its messy legal and emotional baggage. He said, "New Death Row with California, the West Coast, and LA is needed. It's been 20 years since my dad." Shout out to Dre, Snoop, and everyone who founded Death Row Records. That was Lil Suge playing it very smart and strategic. He praised the icons who built the original label while actively distancing himself from the intense controversies that continually swirled around it. He wanted to honor the past without letting it wreck his future. Hit subscribe. Now New Death Row is young CEO Suge, putting together something that I really feel like I want to do, and as an LA native. Yet while Lil Suge tried carving out his own independent path, the heavy gravity of his dad's bitter ongoing war with Snoop constantly dragged him into a messy conflict he never started and could not control. Suge Sr. showed absolutely zero signs of backing down. Not for a second, not for a single minute. In 2025, Suge dropped another blistering jailhouse interview where he repeated his wild accusations against Snoop using much harsher language and specific details. He revived the Ray J phone call again. He spotlighted the Keef D drama again. He trashed that Drake AI track again. And he layered, "Welcome back to the news desk." Fresh claims are piling up, engineered to wrap public suspicion firmly around Snoop's neck. Snoop's response was fast, highly public, and totally dismissive. We watched him take straight to Instagram, dropping a comment, trashing Suge's claims as flat-out lies, blaming it all on pure bitterness over losing the Death Row empire. He wrote that Suge was just furious because Snoop now owns Death Row. Then, he dropped a line that our viewers immediately turned into a viral meme. "I realize your real lies. Our newsroom loved the wordplay, acting as a heavy punchline and a total brush-off. But Snoop never leaves beef strictly on social platforms when he has the option to take it straight to the studio. He dropped a 2025 diss track aimed strictly and exclusively at Suge Knight. We analyzed the audio. It was a vicious diss record, leaving zero room for doubt. Pure bars targeting a man sitting inside a prison cell, a guy completely unable to step into a recording booth to shoot back. But then, a new voice entered our broadcast. Hit like if you're following, because this added a complex layer the simple Suge versus Snoop beef narrative just could not handle. Reggie Wright Jr., the guy who ran security for Death Row Records back during the label's golden days, sat for a massive interview. He tackled both Suge's heavy accusations and Snoop's clapbacks with a level of detail neither guy gave us. Our editors noted his statement was wild for its refusal to totally pick a side. But damn, is that all the proof he has to accuse a man of murder? I just don't. I do not agree. As journalists, we watched Reggie fiercely dismantle the foundation of Suge's case. He stated plainly that the so-called evidence Suge pushed to the media, the Ray J phone call, the Warren G walkie-talkie rumor, and Snoop skipping that Vegas trip was simply not enough to back up an accusation as heavy and serious as catching a murder charge. He wasn't saying Suge invented everything out of thin air. He just meant the logic crumbles when our investigative team subjects it to honest scrutiny. But then Reggie dropped a detail that gave our entire broadcast a much darker, uncomfortable tone. Snoop? Yeah. Well, Snoop was, a certain way toward Tupac. That was Reggie publicly confirming on record, from his own eyewitness view, that the dynamic between Snoop and Tupac was never the perfect unity, brotherhood the media always sold us. He noted a deep jealousy from Snoop toward Tupac that nobody properly spotted during the wild 1990s. But looking back now, it became impossible to ignore. He drew a very sharp, deliberate line, though, between personal envy and actually helping commit a murder. Hating on a rival artist's massive cultural impact and actually plotting or setting up their assassination are two completely different things in our reporting. A massive criminal gap separates them, period. And Reggie refused to make that extreme journalistic leap based solely on the weak evidence Suge just presented. Before we continue, smash that subscribe button. Lil Suge slammed Snoop in a June 2026 video that went totally viral and triggered our coverage today. He even did it in sit-downs, dating back several years before that. He blasted Snoop's handling of Death Row Records, labeling the modern version of the brand a watered-down shadow of the rap powerhouse his dad built from the ground up. And he put all these takes on camera while the whole internet watched, commented, and judged the situation in real time. When Lil Suge brings up Tupac historically, it usually fits an entirely different news angle. Take the time in 2019 when he claimed Tupac was still alive and hiding out in Malaysia. A headline he later walked back, blaming our fellow media outlets for twisting his words just to score a sensational headline. His main editorial focus has always stayed on the business side, on fiercely protecting and keeping his dad's legacy intact, growing his own solo career, and shaping a public image that is tied to, but not swallowed up by, the Knight family brand. Those specific murder allegations, the rumors that Snoop Dogg was somehow guilty or bore weight for the tragic death of Tupac Shakur, stemmed directly from Suge Knight Sr. As commentators, we've watched those claims, true or false, become potent enough to totally rewrite the way a whole generation of hip-hop fans views the historic bond between Snoop and Tupac. Suge has loudly accused Snoop of aiding Tupac's fatal downfall. He claims on record that Snoop and a shady crew tried securing. Today we unpack how the main murder suspect walked free, reportedly because insiders feared what he might spill. Suge pointed to that infamous Ray J phone call, framing it as an indirect guilty plea. Meanwhile, Snoop has denied every single accusation. No hesitation, no holding back. Our team notes he has branded these claims as straight lies, spun by a bitter rival with too much time and nothing left to lose. He pins all these heavy accusations on pure jealousy over his massive Death Row Records buyout. So far, no criminal charges have materialized from these explosive claims. Zero hard evidence has reached a courtroom. The historic beef between Suge Knight and Snoop Dogg stays exactly what it was for 30 years, a brutal media war driven by decades of deeply personal, hatred, shady music industry deals, and the still bleeding wound of Tupac Shakur. Lil Suge, caught in the crossfire of this rap news, tries walking a tightrope most would find absolutely impossible to balance. Quote, "I am not going to be out here yelling, forget Dre, forget Snoop, none of that. You feel me? Even my dad is not about that. We have moved totally on from it," end quote. That was Lil Suge speaking on record, attempting to shut a book that his father stubbornly refuses to close. Quote, "At the end of the day, those guys united to build the most legendary rap label on the West Coast. That is my final word. But Senior, sitting in his prison cell, refuses to let the headlines die. He has zero desire for peace talks, completely lacking patience for PR spin, and rejects treating this hip-hop fallout as just a regular corporate dispute. Instead, he has chained Snoop to the Tupac Shakur murder theories in the public mind with steel that might never be broken. Now, you and I have to ask, are these the claims of an insider holding secrets we do not know, or the desperate rants of a ruined mogul unable to face reality? Either way, the massive damage to the pop culture narrative is already done. This dark link between Snoop and the Tupac legacy stands totally cemented in the minds of millions online. As long as Suge keeps feeding the press from behind state lines, the entire Knight crew, especially Lil Suge, will get dragged right into the media spotlight, whether they actually want the press or not. Smash that like button and tell us, will this rap feud ever die? Drop your take in the comments. Hit subscribe for more daily news, and click the video card right on your screen.